I'm so surprised, like the number of people I've talked to on this show that were into metal and then kind of transferred into drum and bass later on. There's way more than you'd imagine. It's crazy. And we're on. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Last Week Liquid podcast. Today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Casper, better known as Waeys. Casper is a drum and bass producer and DJ from the Netherlands with releases across the likes of Overview, Critical and Shogun. He's also the founder of events company Rolling Eclectic and is scheduled to play at the Critical 20 Years of Underground Sonics on the 19th of March. You can catch his latest release, the Prima Dollo EP with Ruben, out now on all platforms. Casper, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you, man. I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Thanks a lot for making some time. You said you were going into this blank, so you have no idea what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I like going blank into interviews because the more I prepare it, I usually feel like going in blank gives me, more
Anxiety.
space to be. no, it gives me more space to be a little bit honest and kind of spontaneous, I guess. So I like that instead of preparing everything. So
yeah. It's funny. I have guests sometimes that want to know like questions in advance, like, okay, what are you going to ask me? And others like just don't check and like, yeah, whatever is fine.
Yeah, I'm usually quite good. I can talk for hours on anything music related or not music related, so should be good.
Perfect. That's the whole idea of the podcast, so that's perfect.
Sweet.
No, brilliant. Thanks a lot for making some time, man. Really appreciate it. I know you must be pretty busy. I don't know if you're still busy with events and all of that. How are things in the Netherlands at the moment?
Yeah, not so good right now. We've just gone into sort of a soft lockdown again since, I don't know, the beginning of this month. We had a pretty big spike in infection rates, so it's all kind of we had some events in the last months, but not like at 75% capacity, and also they were evening events, so until 12 o'clock, until midnight. So everyone was doing parties from like 6-7 p.m. till midnight, which I mean they were pretty fun. Like it didn't feel any less, but obviously it wasn't the full experience. And it's a bit finicky getting the timing right when you also have to eat dinner.
Yeah.
that's probably the thing I struggled most with, is having to eat dinner very early, especially when you have to, promote an event, organize it. You have to be there, obviously quite early and whatever. So
yeah.
But it's been all right. I mean, right now it's not so good. There's nothing to do here. But other than that, it's pretty sweet.
Is it like temporary? Have they said like it's going to be like a month or something, or is it like last time just a rolling lockdown?
Yeah, it's probably going to be rolling a little bit longer. It was supposed to be till today, actually, till the 15th, if I remember correctly, or I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're going to extend it a little bit longer. The infection rate has gone down, but not as much as someone they would have hoped, probably. So I think it's going to be like early next year probably, and then we'll see what happens. I don't think events are going to come back full strength straight away. But that's probably going to take another while if infections don't go up again, so we'll see.
Yeah. And do you still manage to like travel easily to the UK and stuff to play shows there, or is that a struggle?
Well, yeah, I mean it's all right. It used to be fine in the beginning, so like around July, August, it was not that good because it was a lot of tests. It was 3 tests every weekend, and then quarantine when getting back home, and blah blah, and all these documents and stuff. And at one point, I didn't have to test anymore before leaving, so that was 1 test less. But and no quarantine as well, which is good. But now our big friend Boris has introduced the quarantine again, so I would have to quarantine until I would get back a negative PCR result, which is not something I was looking forward to, and it just makes stuff a lot more expensive because it means another hotel, and just it's just not very good. So I had to cancel 2 shows that were last weekend in Manchester and Leeds. So those will be postponed, and I'll play them another time. But when I don't have to quarantine anymore.
Yeah. fucking sucks. Like,
Yeah, it's not ideal. But the months before that were pretty sweet actually.
yeah.
I was away pretty much all every weekend, and it was very nice to see all my internet friends. You know, the people that I talk to daily, and see them in real life, and not just once, but a couple times. You know, seeing the same people. You know, Oliver from Overview is one that I literally saw every weekend of November, which is, you know, it's just very nice to see my friends so often.
Yeah. Tell me about the. I was listening back to the podcast you did, curated by.
Yeah.
I think it came out in September or something, and you were telling about this time you played in, I think, Bristol, and then you had to do a 4-hour drive to play another show like the same evening.
Yeah, that's what was the last weekend of November. So I played on the Friday. I played in E1 in London, and then on the Saturday I had 2 shows, one in Birmingham, and then all the way to Brighton, which is a 3-hour drive. Yeah, that was a hectic weekend.
An experience.
It was very, very stressful and tiring, and I had to take the train from London to Birmingham, but the train got some delays and whatever, and it was horrible. And I came into the venue like 5 minutes before my set in Birmingham, and I had to leave like 10 minutes after my set as well. So it was like in and out, and then get into the cab. And I also had someone drive that was supposed to drive me, but her car failed. So I had to book a cab, which was so expensive for like a 3-hour drive.
Oh shit! 3-hour drive in the UK by cab.
Yeah, by cab. It was quite expensive. Luckily, I didn't have to pay all of it, but it was very expensive. The only good thing, I guess, was that I could just sleep in the cab a little bit and just regain a little bit of strength for the little bit of energy for the show in Brighton, which was actually a really fun show. It was for Levela, and Levela is a great dude. A lot of fun.
Do you feel you generally prefer to get to the venue like plenty of time in advance to kind of like get into the mood, or
yeah, for sure. I love to check out the venue. Just, you know, in general, just check out the venue, see what's what, and then, you know, like getting the mood, get used to loud sound and that kind of stuff. So I usually like to get in the venue early. 2 shows in one night is definitely. I'm not sure if I would do it again unless it's like 2 really cool shows, or you know, or it's something special. But I'm not sure if I would do it again.
It's not ideal for your like energy levels. And did you like rinse the same set on those 2 nights, or was it like completely different?
No, it was very different because on one set I played from 11 to 12.
Okay.
Like it wasn't the opener set; it was a set after the opener. But obviously, you know, it's 11 to 12, so I started with a little bit more kind of liquid, soulful kind of stuff, more minimal, deepish stuff, which was a lot of fun because I don't really get to. Well, you know, it's always you choose what you play, but usually the set times I get.
So sorry, I was just saying,
really
if you're
don't play that stuff.
Sorry, I think there's a delay.
No, it's a.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yes. No. Usually, I don't really get to play much of that, because, you know, my set times, like you said, they're usually around 2 to 3 a.m. So I don't really play that stuff too often. Sometimes I'll do a little detour within the set, but now I had some proper time to do a little intro and do some cool stuff. So I like that. Yeah, it was good. And the set in Brighton was definitely very different. You know, it was 4 till 5, so that was definitely a more high tempo, a lot more pace in it, just harder stuff in general. Yeah. I had to play after Levela, which he's a madman. His pace is so high. Like he mixes tune after tune, and it's just
Yeah, I'm like a producer, but I'm not a DJ at all, except just at home I have my decks and I mix sometimes. But so the whole like club environment isn't, at least DJing is not one I'm familiar with. But I remember speaking early in the podcast with somebody, and he was kind of explaining to me that depending on your slot, it's also a question of like respect towards the people playing after you or before you. Like if you're going in with a really like hard set at the beginning of the show, like that's going to be hard for the others to continue after that. So it's like taking all those factors into account. It's not just you doing the best set possible. Like there's other factors, which I thought was really interesting.
It was a very big contrast for that first show in Birmingham, because the guy playing before me already dropped that limit. So I was like, okay, he was going at it already, you know. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna do my thing. So the transition between his last couple tunes and my first tunes was a very big contrast.
Okay.
I'll give you that. And yeah, it's definitely a thing of respect, I guess. I mean, it didn't feel like I wasn't respected or anything, but it did feel quite a bit off. Like it's good to know what you should play as an opener, and it's, I think, definitely something that not everyone understands as well as other people. But
I guess
you only learn with time. So
exactly, I don't know who this guy was, but I'm guessing it, like if you were in your early days DJing and it's your first few nights or something, you just want to bang out the hardest set ever, and you don't care what time it is.
The first set I played was awful. It was just fucking bangers after bangers. It wasn't even on a drum and bass night, so it was like, my set didn't fit like the whole crowd at all. But I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna play this because I like this music. And I was just putting out these weird tunes, some dubstep, some bass house, and some drum bass. And I mean, everyone kind of liked it, but it was just like, it did not fit the night at all. So I completely get that. I get that people do that. So it's not, it's all good.
So we're recording. This is going to be one of the last. It'll probably be coming out after New Year, but it's one of the last ones recording here in 2021. So just want to kind of do a bit of a look back at your year 2021. How was 21 for you as a year? What were some of the highlights for you?
Yeah, well, I made a post about this recently on my Instagram, where basically I said, like, this year was obviously, you know, it's not been the best year, you know. There's a lot of shit happening, not a lot of shows, but the second half of the year was actually quite good. I really liked the second half of this year. Everything came a bit loose, and get to see a lot of people. So I think in general my year was you know, it was good. I can't lie. I'm not going to say like it was a shit year for me, because it was quite good. Even though it has not been very good for a lot of people. But I don't know. I'm just happy that I have something that can keep me busy and something I won't get bored of, because I feel like that's definitely something that I find that I see a lot of people struggling with, is that they don't really have anything they can just dump time in when they need to, or when they're in quarantine. And then what do? You end up just binge watching some shows on Netflix and just bored out of your mind, right? And then I can understand why that is just not a very good lifestyle, or just not a good year, you know. But for me, it's been great. I'm really blessed to be doing this, even though the first half of this year was definitely a bit more boring than the second half. But you know, it's good that the good part of this year was the last part, because that's the part that sticks.
It's the one you remember.
So I would say in terms of highlights, I would definitely say November was a good month, because that was my busiest month. It's just, like I said before, just meeting all of my friends that I've been talking to for so long, but haven't been able to see for 1.5 years, most of them. Just seeing everyone again, it's just that's probably the best thing about it. You know, I'm playing the show, seeing how many people turn up, and just everyone having a good time. It's definitely, and just being able to work on a lot of music, having a fair bit of time, and working on my album has been really nice and really refreshing.
Your album, is that the project you're doing for your studies, or
that's what I mean. The study part of it is already done. I've already kind of finished that, but it's now, you know, at the time when the I guess that assignment came to end and I had to present my work, the album wasn't really finished yet, but you know, no one really cares. It's just it's about the thought and kind of the process behind it, and just explaining that and what I've done. And they were really impressed and they really liked it. But obviously for me, it wasn't done yet. So that's kind of what I've been finishing alongside some other remixes and other things. And that's finally coming out next year.
Okay.
I'm in the final stages right now, as in finishing the tunes. Deadline is somewhere this month, and then sending them off for mastering, and it will come out somewhere next year.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I was planning on talking about the album a bit later, but let's jump into it because you talked about it on the other podcast again, about like concept albums, and you come from a more like metal background from what I recall, and that's a big thing in metal and, well, other genres as well, but like concept albums. And your concept was like around repetition, if I remember correctly. I found that really interesting. Maybe you can like explain it for people who haven't heard that podcast.
Yeah. So basically what I did is there's repetition as a rhetorical device within, writing and grammar and that kind of stuff. And I found that all these different forms of repetition, the way sentences repeat or parts within sentences repeat or finish each other, was very interesting. And I just kind of tried, so how can I translate that into writing melodies? So for each track, I used a different form of repetition as a rhetorical device and translated the rules, I guess, the rules of that, every form of repetition has a rule, like it has to be like this. For the first track of the album uses a form of repetition where it's the repetition of just one word and only that word. So naturally, what I did is just use a one-note melody, and it just kept repeating and repeating, and that's kind of what I did for every track on the album. And that's and that kind of ties it all together. And then there's some parts that come back into different songs and kind of returning themes, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you could just even like just making music is like a form of repetition, because like a waveform is just like a repetition of the same like waveform. So if you're just pressing like a note, that's a repetition already. Kind of, I guess.
It is an endless repetition.
What's that?
Yeah, it's an endless repetition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So is that like a drum and bass album, or is it like a mixed genre? What does it look like?
At first, I was planning it to be a little bit more diverse than it now is. Most of it is drum and bass, but there are definitely a couple tracks on there that are not drum and bass, and kind of stay away from that, and just stuff that I've wanted to do for a while, but was too focused on making bangers, and that's also kind of what I stayed away from for with this album, is that there's not really any actual banger, like there's no foghorns on it.
Okay.
It's all very melodic, and it's very different. So I'm very excited to hear what people, very excited to see what people think of it. But it's just something that I've been putting off for so long, as in I usually don't really listen to much drum and bass, and I listen to a lot of very melodic, interesting kind of music, kind of jazz fusion, R&B, soul, hip hop kind of stuff, all those kind of things. And I really love that music. And it's always been on my mind. Like I want to make that kind of stuff and see how I can incorporate that. But I never just really got to it. Not in the way that I've kind of went and gone for it right now, which is where almost every track on the album is quite melodic and has some very clear influences from all the music that I listen. It's a much more accurate representation of what I actually listen to, instead of the tunes I've made in the past, I guess.
Yeah, that's getting me really curious. I really want to hear it now, because I'm not a like expert in your discography, but I like recently at least, one of the only like liquid tracks was the one with Dusky, I think. There might have been like others, and that's like one of my favorites. So I was like, can you do more of these,
it's a lot more
please?
stuff like that. It's a lot more stuff like that for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. And so are there any like collabs as well, or is it purely like your album, your vision?
The productions are all mine. There are some singers on it. There's 3 tracks with singers on it. But the productions are all mine. It's no collab, just pure my tunes.
Okay, yeah. And is that going to be like signed to a label, or is it you're self-releasing it, or it's signed? Okay,
Yeah, it's gonna be on Critical Music.
Oh wow, okay, sorry, I didn't know that. I don't know if
No, I don't think I've ever
knowledge?
said that. No, I don't think I've said that. I mean, the people that know, but I don't think I've ever said that. But it's it's coming. People know it's coming, and it's probably not an issue that they know it's going to be in. They know nothing else about the album. They don't know when it's coming, but it's coming at some point. Yeah.
Okay. That's brilliant. So melodic album on Critical. Really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that as well because it's very. I would say it's very different from what Critical has released in the past. There's obviously some similarities between other artists and that kind of thing, but a full album like this, I don't think they've really done that before, which makes it really special for me too. It really makes me feel like I'm also bringing the label something new, and that makes you feel quite valued, and I like that. So
yeah, definitely, yeah. So yeah, I want to bring it back a bit to your like earlier years, how you got into music and all of that. So I think I read somewhere that you started on bass guitar. But tell me a bit about like your childhood, your introduction to music.
Yeah, so my dad is a jazz musician, so he plays double bass, so, upright bass, the long boy. He's been playing that for, I don't know, probably 45 years now, a very long time, probably longer. So he's definitely been the person that has got me into music to begin with. He always played, he has a huge vinyl collection. He just played all his tunes and I just listened, or it was in the car on cassette and he just played some tunes. And at one point I just wanted to learn an instrument, and the most obvious thing at that point was bass, because my dad could just teach me. So and he had a lot of basses laying around, so I could just practice, get one, and just fiddle around with it. And that's kind of how that started. But at that time, I didn't really know what I want yet. So it was, I kind of tried to find something that I liked. So after bass, I went to piano because a lot of my friends were having piano lessons. So I took lessons at the same tutor, which was really nice, and kind of learned some piano with that. So I learned to read notes and kind of do that stuff, even though I don't really use that anymore. But no, it's always good to learn, and I would say it's a little bit important to at least know the basics. So from there, that's kind of the point where my taste in music kind of shifted towards more heavy stuff. So a lot of metal at the time, and piano wasn't really, obviously you want to identify and be able to play along with the music that you're listening to. And so when metal became a thing for me, then guitar was the next instrument that I picked up, and the one I stayed with the longest as well, because just metal and kind of guitar music is something that I still listen to sometimes, not as much as you used to, but definitely something that I still like. So I've been playing guitar for, well, I mean, I always say like 7 to 8 years, because I don't really play guitar anymore right now. I occasionally pick it up, but at the time I used to play it every day in practice and learn new songs, do covers and all that kind of stuff, and also try to write my own kind of metal productions and stuff.
Oh, nice.
But I don't really do that anymore. I don't really, it's also another story, but that's kind of I kind of injured my hand, which made playing guitar a lot harder. So that's also why I don't really do it anymore, and also kind of reason why I chose to switch to electronic music, I guess. So yeah, from guitar, kind of at one point electronic music came. They were definitely kind of intertwined for a very long time. I really liked playing guitar and listening to that, but I also really liked electronic music and doing that kind of production. So it was kind of both at the moment. And then, I had the accident with my hand, and then I kind of focused on electronic music from then, and this was around, I would say, probably around 17 when I was 17, 18. So like,
Okay.
5, 6 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. So just staying on metal for a minute, because I'm a huge metal nerd. I love metal, and
Sweet.
I'm so surprised, like the number of people I've talked to on this show that were into metal and then kind of transferred into drum and bass later on. There's way more than you'd imagine. It's crazy. What kind of bands like were you into at the time?
Well, that's also a very long journey. In the beginning, it was like this, your standard kind of, Breaking Benjamin, Bullet for My Valentine, all the kind of just the metalcore emo scene at that time. That was huge, and so that's what I was into. But as I got a little bit older and I would say my taste got a little bit more refined, I really started liking some more interesting things. And I think that's partly to do with the fact that my dad plays a lot of jazz and I listen to a lot of jazz. So I really like that interesting chord changes and just the things that they do in jazz. And I kind of found that, progressive metal is kind of a thing where they do similar things, but in metal, something that I really liked at the time. So progressive metal is something that I really got into. So, bands like Animals as Leaders, Pliny, Periphery, too many to count. Contortionist, there's so many, and that's kind of the thing I really got into. So that's also what I wanted to write and play and kind of, at the time I also wanted to be in a band and do that kind of stuff, but then I found out how hard it is to just to find a band or just do that shit. Like it's like when you make your own productions, it's you have control over everything. And I mean, on the other hand, you also have to learn everything, but you're not dependent on anyone else, which is a thought I really liked. And I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to even like being in a band. So I dropped that idea, apart from having to find a band that were, because, progressive metal is quite a hard genre to play. So you need to have good musicians. I'm pretty sure I wasn't even a good enough musician to do it at the time, but so I kind of let that dream go and just kind of moved on to the next thing, which I'm happy I did. For sure.
Yeah. It's funny because I was like very similar to you, also like playing metal, and I played in some bands, and there were like two things. First of all, it's so much practice to actually get to like the level you want. I was playing guitar, and like the bands I would try to imitate would be like Parkway Drive or that kind of metalcore, which I love, but I'm nowhere near that level, or at least at the time. And secondly, as you said, like playing in a band, it means negotiating with other people and making sure everybody comes to practice and all that stuff, which never happened. So that it's so much work, like actually making a band work, I feel.
Absolutely. It's so much harder. There's like 5 different people in there that all have their own priorities in their own life, and it's really hard to align with each other. Or at least it's hard to find the people that align with each other. Like that's just something that is just super hard to find, especially when, I don't know, it's when you're playing a very niche genre. Progressive metal is already very, very, very niche. It's quite small within metal. It's so hard to find similar-minded people that are willing to put in the same effort as you and are on the same level or have the same taste. It's like there's always something. So
exactly.
being on my own and being my own kind of creative director is definitely definitely a benefit.
Yeah. So how did you discover like music production? Did somebody introduce it to you, or was it just YouTube?
I mean, I had a friend down the road who lived like around the corner, and he had a brother who was very into kind of a hardcore gabber kind of, that was really big in the Netherlands at that time. So that's kind of the thing. And that was my first introduction. And he kind of made similar things like that. He tried to make that with FL Studio, and I was really interested as well. So I tried it at home, and he just kind of got me into that, I guess. And from there, it went on to Skrillex. So I tried to make some dubstep and that kind of stuff. And that just went on and on, trying every genre possible, future bass house, anything that was kind of EDM at the time was something that I had most likely tried to make at one point. Whether good or not good, but yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that because again, like just like metal is a topic that comes up very often on this show, Skrillex is a name that comes very, very often for a drum and bass podcast.
Yeah.
Would you say that like Skrillex had like somewhat of an influence on you in terms of what you listen to or just producing music?
Yeah, I mean, he had a huge influence on me. He's definitely the guy that got me into that kind of heavy electronic music, you know, apart from the standard kind of house electronic music, which I didn't really listen to, but that was at the time really all I knew about electronic music. And then Skrillex came and he just completely opened up a whole world of like, what is this sound and what is this type of music, like, and then you find out there's a whole thing behind it, and there's like, obviously he was a pioneer at the time doing something really new and innovative, and that just really opened doors for me in terms of what I thought was really cool, and yeah, he's huge. He's definitely the person that has got me into, like, actually got me into wanting to do this seriously, because at the time it was just fiddling around and, you know, making gabber or hardcore is like, you know, it was fun, it was for shits and giggles, but it wasn't anything that I was seriously thinking of, oh, I really want to keep doing this, because I didn't like the music that much, you know. It was fun, but as soon as Skrillex came around, that was like, okay, that's actually really cool. And that really started the whole thing about, you know, actually trying to be serious with that stuff. So yeah, for sure, huge inspiration.
Yeah, it's funny how those like bands like Pendulum also get a lot of hate, and Skrillex obviously gets a lot of hate, but those names come up so often for like our generation of like in the 90s, born in the 90s and then 2000s. They were huge for us.
Yeah, look, whether you like the music or not, if I listen to Skrillex old stuff, I can't say I like it. It sounds awful, but at the time it was just something so different and so special that it just sparked something which led to, and you know, and but still he's a remarkable producer. What he makes now is also very sick, even though it's very different. But no one can deny that his ability is outstanding. He's one of the best for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. And he was like from a metal background.
His old band is something I used to listen to as well, and I really. He actually went back to that band from first to last at one point. Really? And yeah, he went back to the band and they wrote like 2 tunes where he actually sang, like Sonny actually sang on 2 tunes, and they were really good. I really liked tunes, so it's like, oh shit, yeah. I'm really bummed he didn't follow through on it, but I understand. Obviously, you know, the man has other things to do, and he probably is just enjoying his life to the fullest now, which you know, he has every right to do. But they kind of got back together. And the funny thing is, because the thing is with that band is that after Sonny left, from first to last, that band then did another album at one point with the singer from the band Periphery, which was my favorite band at the time. So I was like, oh shit, this band, isn't that the Skrillex band? And then, but they have this, you know, they have the singer from Periphery now, which I think is a really good singer. So that kind of got me back into listening their music. And then Sonny came back and I was like, holy shit, what is happening?
That's like the weirdest crossover ever.
It was so weird. It was just all of these people that I knew and loved from different things, they're all crossing over and doing stuff. It's like,
that's really cool. So when did you, because obviously Skrillex, at least that sound is very different from the sound you produced today. What was your introduction into actual like drum and bass?
I think the first time I heard it, but didn't know what it was with Rudimental, was tune Feel the Love or something, you know, that classic. Radio, yeah, that's something, you know, it was on MTV and I was like, oh, this is like fast dubstep. I like it. That's fast literally what I said, is that it's like fast dubstep, because it had the same kind of sounds to it, the same kind of texture, you know, kind of metallic or computerized, synthesized kind of sounding. So I was like, oh, that must also be dubstep because that's the only reference I had to that genre. And then someone told me that was, you know, a little bit more well versed, I guess, in the music. Was like, nah, it's drum and bass, man. So
Don't say that
was,
again.
yeah. So that was my first introduction to drum and bass, and then just kind of, you know, that was a very long time. But I would say the you know, at that point, it wasn't as much drum and bass. It was more. It was still much more EDM and kind of the Monster Cat kind of. That kind of music is the thing I definitely listened to for a very long time and always wanted to make, and kind of, you know, kind of the label I wanted to release it was Monster Cat at the time. But yeah, then at I think 2016, 17, it was like, you know, getting more into drum bass, more looking up more artists from the scene, and really trying that out, because I was also noticing that there are some events going around, and, you know, in the Netherlands, and you know, I hadn't gone to any of them because I wasn't old enough yet to go. But I was quite interested to see what that scene was like. And then at one point, a really good friend of mine got into it, and he just took me to some parties and a festival, and then, you know, it kind of got the ball rolling, and I was like, oh, this is sick. There's a lot of people that like this stuff. I really like it. The vibes are great at these parties, and there's actually a scene for it. So that was something that I then kind of wanted to go at.
Yeah, I think you mentioned also that was it Liquidity? I think one of the first like events you went to.
Yeah.
Was that like the first? Because I think I went to the very first Liquidity. I think Netsky played and Seba played, and I think it was like the first edition. Was that the one you were at, or?
No, man. The first edition of Liquidity I went at was in 2017. It's not even that long ago.
Okay,
That's 4 years ago. So I'm not even sure which edition that was. I'm not even sure when they started, but
yeah, it's not that long ago. I think like max, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years. So it's not that.
Yeah, it could have been like the 4th edition or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah. No, definitely not the first one. I was quite late to the party. Is what I always think to myself. Not that it matters, but, you know, in terms of always when I hear other people talking about these kind of things, that they were introduced all the way back when, you know, Dillinger and all the you know, Goldie and everything, when that was the stuff. But I joined in so much more later. Much later.
Dude, I think the same to myself sometimes, because I discovered in like 2010 with Netsky's first album, which was like, I'm from Belgium, so that was like huge in Belgium. And then when I started the podcast last year, I got these guests talking to me about like Goldie and Dillinger and Fotek and all these guys. I was like, sorry, who?
yeah. Mate, if you would have asked any of these names a couple years back, I would have said the same thing. I would not have known who these were.
And then you go back and educate yourself and be like, okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's important to know, but it's also important to see where it's going, I think, because definitely. People, you know, it's always the same story with everyone. Like when people try to do new things, there are people like, oh, this is so cool, and then there's the other thing like, stay with the old stuff. The old stuff is better. It's always the same thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's good to do both, I guess. Invent, try to do new things, but also stay with the roots of things to keep both parties happy.
Yeah, no, definitely. So when did you kind of switch to your more like techie sound? Because if you were introduced more to Liquidity, that's not exactly the same style of what you produce.
Well, look, the thing about Liquidity is that, you know, when people think of Liquidity or of the festival or just the label, when they think of the label, all they think is Liquid, which is, you know, very correct. You know, all they release is pretty much Liquid. But with the festivals, they try to keep it as diverse as possible. Maybe not as much in the beginning, but at least the event I went to, you could tell that there's definitely a lot of other artists in there. I don't even remember who played it the first time, but there was always some big headliner playing some neuro, or, you know, Noise has played there so many times. NDC's played there every time, not every time, but a lot of times. Alex Press played there so many times. It's definitely it's the festival is definitely something different than the music they release. With the festival, they really, even though a very big portion of it is liquid, either liquidity artist or not liquidity artist, but there is one stage in particular that basically I will just stay at that stage for the whole weekend, which is where all the guys like Express, Skeptical, and Break and that kind of stuff play. That's the stage where all the heads kind of go to.
All the hoodies come up and
yeah. No, it's great, man. It's such a nice festival. The vibes are so good. Everyone's just having a good time always, and the music is good, and there's something for everyone. It's really great.
Yeah. So when did you discover your more techie sound?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really remember the festival in 2018 when the thing that stuck to me most is definitely the closure set of the Sunday for that. So the last set of the festival for that particular stage. Which was Serum closing off. I can't deny it. That was definitely one of the best sets I've experienced at the time. It was great. I think that's definitely something that kind of sparked something for me, that I noticed that music just is so nice on a dance floor. I guess it's partly that, but also partly just listening to trying to kind of. It was also me digging deeper into drum and bass, like actually going into the niche tech step kind of subgenre, deep drum and bass tech step, what they used to call it at the time, and just kind of do that kind of stuff and just listen to it. And in the beginning, I didn't really like it, to be honest, but the more I listened to it, the more I was like, I get it now, because at the time it was like, loud noises are very good, but then, the minimal tech step comes and there's like almost nothing going on. But I guess it just takes a little bit of listening experience and just kind of, giving it some time before it grows on you. And then also when you hear it at some events, you get it. That, that's definitely something that makes it a lot easier to understand the music than just listening it on your headphones or on your speakers at home. So I think it's like a combination of me just trying to figure out what this genre was all about, what other things there were, and then experiencing Serum and other guys as well at the festivals and at the parties. And yeah, I think that's kind of where I got my inspiration for my kind of sound from.
Yeah. Would you say there's also a link between like your music studies, like being more in the weeds of things, and that's like making you more interested in like sound design? Because I guess sound design is a big aspect of your productions today.
I wouldn't say my studies have really done much for me in terms of my own productions.
Okay.
It's always a hard one because the studies have been very useful for a lot of other things, but in terms of me developing my own sound, I feel like that's probably just mostly me. Not really the studies, but the studies have given me a lot of other things, a lot of people to exchange ideas with, and just other people to make music with and see what other people do, and also just build a network. So in that sense, the study has helped me on that side, but on just my sound and my productions, not as much.
Okay. I want to quickly jump to another topic, and that's Patreon, because obviously with lockdowns and all of that, we saw a huge amount of a lot of artists just starting Patreons. I know you have quite a successful one. Tell me a bit about what you do on Patreon. I think there's live streams, stuff like that. Tell me a bit about it.
Yeah, so basically there's a couple tiers, obviously, but in general, what I do is sample packs, tutorials, and live streams, feedback live streams, as well as production live streams. And that's it's just kind of people get a look at to see how I make my stuff and see me make it, and see me talk about other people's music, give live feedback on them, or just one-to-one feedback, and some solo sessions, some one-to-one sessions with people where I can explain and dive deeper into some stuff if they like. So that's basically what I do.
Do you enjoy those live stream sessions?
The live streams are the best. They're easily the favorite part of my favorite
Okay.
part of the Patreon because especially lately since I've been doing the feedback streams on Twitch, because I used to do them like privately either on the Discord or on Zoom for just my patrons, because that's in the end where what they're supposed to be for. But I noticed that it's actually a lot better, especially for the feedback streams, to do it on Twitch, because then a lot of other people can just join without having to pay anything. They can see what happens, and it's also a lot of extra promotion for the people that have sent in their tunes, because again, only the people that are patrons can send in tunes. So they get a little bit of exposure through that, I guess, and which is also always something good to do, give back to your fans. I think those are really fun, because I just have a lot of very nice and very funny patrons, and it's just always a lot of fun chatting to them and talking to them and just cracking some jokes and talking about some music. It's just it's lovely.
Yeah. Are you like sometimes surprised by the like quality of like submissions, or like newcomers that like drop a like huge track and you're like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, there are definitely some people that, especially when they're either new to the Patreon or haven't sent anything in before. I always have a couple of people that always send in tunes. Some regulars. But then there's always, the occasional new tune or new producer that sends in just a huge fucking tune, and it's like, oh damn, that's great. Yeah, that's cool. So I love that. I just love hearing other people's music to begin with, and just helping them on their way. But yeah, when you get great music, that's also just something very good. That's always great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess if like the tunes are really good, you can also kind of help them out in terms of,
Absolutely.
you could send it here, there, and just help them on their journey.
Yeah. No, I have a student who makes some really great music, and we're just kind of working together with them to create a couple tunes that we're gonna just send to some labels together. Because I'm, if I stand behind the music and I think the music is good, I'm not afraid to send it over to some labels for them, because I know that if I send it, they might actually listen to the music. While down on submission boxes usually just get ignored or emails don't get listened to or whatever. It's connections are obviously a really big thing in music and drum and bass. So being able to use that for other people is definitely something I'm not afraid to do, and it's I think it's something you should do, really, because you got to help out if you stand behind the music, if you think it's good, then why not help out a little bit?
Yeah. Or play it as a dub or something, and then everybody's
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's what people have done for me, so why should I not do the same for others?
Yeah, and I guess it must be really rewarding if you're like giving feedback on a tune and then send it to a label, and then you see that tune actually come out on a label. It's like, fuck, I was part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's great to see that you've helped someone get some of their goals.
Yeah,
that's great.
Talking about like newcomers, I guess your latest EP with Ruben, is he technically a newcomer, or did he have like other aliases before? Because I know he doesn't have anything under that alias, but
he's definitely not a newcomer. He's been at it for way longer than I am.
Okay.
Way longer. He's my roommate actually. He's in the living room chilling right now. But he's been producing under the alias Ordure for, I don't know, years, a very long time. He with that, which was a duo. He did that with his friend Jesse, and they had some releases on Flex Out and Inspected, I think, as well, and some other labels. Blackout as well. So he's already been in the game and doing things for way longer than I am. This was just something that was gonna come eventually. As he's just making so much music and just really feeling the solo production. So and he's great. His stuff is amazing. He's apart from this EP, he's making a lot of other tunes, and I obviously get to hear them firsthand, and they're all really fucking good. So it's definitely someone to watch.
Yeah, it's funny because when I saw the EP and I was like, oh, that's nice. Like Waeys is helping out this guy who doesn't have any releases. And
Yeah, the funny thing is the thing is, and that's kind of that's what we just talked about, is that he's the one that helped me get the release and overview. Because he, back in the day, for my first EP, the Roppel EP and overview, he's the one that sent my EP over to overview.
Okay.
So he's the one that got me signed with them, and then and that really kickstarted my career. So he's the one that's been helping me out instead of me helping him. I mean, I guess I'm kind of sort of returning the favor here, but
yeah. No, that's really cool. So tell me about how did that like collaboration came about? Because so there's 2 tunes that are collabs, and then you each have one solo tune on the EP. So how did those tracks come together?
Yeah, well, both tracks were actually we did one session back when I don't even remember. I think it was 2019 probably. They're quite old tunes. They're both like probably like 2 years old.
Oh shit! Okay.
I mean, the tunes are very much modernized in the sense that we made both tunes, or at least the setup, or at least a big part of it, both in just one session. I think we made like 3 tunes that session, and then just kind of never really worked on it anymore. Just let it sit for a while, and now we're like, oh, I mean, we might as well release these tunes and kind of finish them and just release them like on like a collaborative EP. So that's what we did. We just finished these tunes and both wrote a tune to a solo tune to accompany it, to make it a full EP. And that's kind of how it went. So they're quite old tunes, but they kind of have the newer flavors of what we both like, and kind of a newer, a better mix down, and just sound a lot more complete, I guess.
Yeah, modern drums and all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Did you do that session together, like in the same room, or was it over? Okay.
Yeah, it's actually back when I didn't live with him yet. I came to this house where I'm right now, and in the room next, which is now his bedroom, was his studio, and that's where he worked on the tunes.
Okay, cool, brilliant. Is that usually how you do your collabs nowadays, in person when you can, or is it mostly over Zoom?
Never. It's okay. not even through Zoom. Usually, it's just sending stems back and forth. Sounds. Yeah. If I can, it's obviously hard to do things face to face with especially when you live in the Netherlands, I guess. It depends on who you're collabing with, of course, but the most people that I've collabed with have been productions that have been stems sent back and forth, and just kind of work on it that way. And I do really like working that way, because I guess that way I can just really take my time and just kind of fiddle around, because I feel like when you're working face to face in the same room, there's always some sort of kind of a pressure to get something good quickly and just get something working well. And the thing with me as well is that I'm very when something isn't working, I'll just quit for a little bit. I'll just close down the program, close down Ableton, and just do something else for a little bit. And that's just not something you can do in a one-to-one session. So you're kind of forced to work on something, and that can be quite frustrating if it's not working. If it's working, it's great, because the session me and Ruben did was very good. We made 3 sketches, maybe even 4. I don't even remember. But we made a lot of sketches, and they all sounded good. And it was just one session that went so well. But I've also had ones that just didn't go so well. And then I'm very much in the mood, like, I just want to not think about this for a little bit and just continue later. But if you've planned the session, that's not something you can do. So that's kind of what I like and dislike about working together. But I do notice that when you actually work together in the same room, it does become more of like an actual collab, in the sense that you can really hear both influences in the tune, rather than someone sending some sounds and you doing your stuff on it. And those usually, at least to my experience, usually end up sounding more like one of the two than a collaboration of both, which is not a bad thing, but it's just having something that is really a hybrid of two producers just sounds very cool. I think that's just the ultimate collab, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess especially if it's like people you haven't met or just met recently, to be sitting like in a room. I always remember the story that Dan Voicijns told me. He did a collab with Muzz like years ago, and they were just chatting online, and then like Muzz flew over to Germany to do like a collab with him.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way I could survive like somebody flying over to do a session with me. Like I'd be stressing out so much.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's not too hard for me. I'm really easy with that stuff, but it does raise the concern, like, we're putting this amount of effort into it. It better be worth it and be something good, And if that doesn't happen, that can be frustrating. Even though usually in the sessions something cool will come about, but but it depends. If you've never worked together on something, that can be quite daunting. But if you have worked on tunes together before, online, I guess, sending stuff back over, then it's probably for me, I think, very easy to just work with someone like that in person, because you've probably had some contact before for quite a long time. Not at this point, I've met most people that I want to collab or that I'm collaborating with, or at least talk to them a lot. So I would love to do some more like face-to-face sessions, definitely.
Okay. Just have to manage your expectations and all of that.
yeah, and just kind of and just not like I think it's also something good that the kind of the when you have someone fly over or you have someone join, it's good to not have it revolve just around the music. I think if you just, if it's just going to be like a fun meeting and just have some fun, and then also work on some tunes, when because that's kind of what happened when QZB came over to my place, because we were both playing in Amsterdam for the Amsterdam Dance Event show for Critical. And he was obviously going to be in the country anyway, so I was like, I'm just going to come over, have some beers, and just chill, and we can work on some music if it works. And we just made some tunes in the living room, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. And Bosé also came over, so he's just, it was just kind of the four of us, me and Ruben and Bosé and QZB, just having some fun and just chilling and just making some beats.
Yeah. I guess that's definitely, it takes a lot of pressure off it if it's more like, it's a city trip. And then if we have time, let's do music and have some beers. But if we don't, that's also fine.
I think that's the most important thing when planning these things, is that you keep it light, no pressure, because as soon as pressure comes, that's usually not a good thing for creative thought processes and just creativity in general. Can be for some people, but I wouldn't say for most of them.
Yeah. Just a last thing on the EP, just want to talk about the artwork, because it's definitely not a classic overview artwork.
No, I'm really glad we could convince Pete from Overview to finally do something different than all these
blackened
than these still kind of drum and bass artworks. No, I get it. Obviously Overview has had their kind of look, they've had their branding and their look, so I get that, but it's good to try to do something new every once in a while. And obviously this was an artist that I've worked with before. She also did her name's Amy Glover, and she also did the cover art of my EP in Critical, the Snore EP, which I loved. It's just great. Just her style is very unique and very cool, and just also quite light, not as serious, and just very colorful, which is something I really like. And then we got the idea for this EP. We actually had no idea what we were going to call the EP for quite a long time, and then we was like, why don't we just call it after our boat, and just we can make the artwork involve the boat and do some cool things. So
So you guys have a boat?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more. I don't know a lot of people with boats, so.
We basically live next to the Amsterdam Marina, so like in front of us, as soon as we walk out the door, there's like 100 boats, and we're like, how cool will it be if we would have a boat? We can just cruise through the Amsterdam canals and in the summer and just on a nice day, and I kind of came up with that idea on the spot at some point, and at first Yellow was like, nah, Yellow's Ruben. He was like, nah, let's not do that. And then he has a couple friends that also own boats. So at one point, it got brought up that I mentioned that at one point, and he was like, "Oh, his friends were like, you should buy a boat," and then he just kind of kickstarted it, and then we were like, "Okay, fuck it," and we just went to look for a secondhand boat and an engine and like a motor to go along with it, and we just bought it, yeah, and it was a lot of fun. We bought it like right before the summer, and just had a lot of cruising fun and just some very nice trips through the canals. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I love I've been once or twice to Amsterdam. And yeah, it's just a beautiful, beautiful city. I don't know how much it's changed because this was like 6, 7 years ago. But
probably not that much. Like,
yeah,
the center of the city doesn't get touched. Like it's all that old, and it's like kind of sacred. They don't really touch that. They don't unless they really have to. But usually, just get renovated.
Yeah.
But in a style that resembles the old kind of thing. So I usually try to not touch the old center as much as possible, which I think is a good thing because it just looks really nice. It's just beautiful. A vibe.
Yeah. There's just so many bikes. I couldn't get over it.
Oh,
it's crazy.
That's not just Amsterdam though. That's anywhere. Like that's just the Netherlands. Our mentality is just take the bike if anywhere. Especially if you live close to the city, you can. Biking is always faster. Like cars is not a thing, but we also have very good public transport. So it's either you take the bike or you take public transport, and that's it.
Yeah. You'll all be ready for the day when cars are totally banned and you all have your bikes ready to go.
I mean, the country is not that big. It could be possible, but we'll need to have more electrical bikes that go much faster. Yeah, basically electrical motorbikes, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm gonna slowly close this off. Just want to ask a few questions from my own Patreon. Nathan, this is more on the production side. Nathan asks, what's a must-have plugin that you use in your productions that you always use?
Right. So there's two. One is FabFilter Saturn, which is like their saturator, which is just a great plugin. It's kind of you can really distort stuff with it, but I really use it to kind of tame stuff. If I put it on something that is, a lot of my techniques revolve around making very harsh resonant peaks, and Saturn really just kind of fixes all the nastiness about it. Kind of functions as a sort of a soothe by ook sound, but different. But it's weird why it works and it does.
It just works.
It's great. and then there's Tantrum, which is a phase distortion plugin that just adds so much grit and just like really just sounds great on bass sounds like no other distortion plugin I've tried ever. It's called Tantrum, and it's by a company called Creative Intent, and it's great. Those are definitely the two plugins I use at least 6 times every session, like on every bass sound or on drums, or like on I use them on so many different things. That's the thing. They're also very versatile. So great.
Okay. Do you use them like in chain, like on the same sound, or would that be too much?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. That's usually chain. First Saturn and then Tantrum. That's what I do.
Never too much distortion.
Nah, never.
He also asks, what's one of your favorite producers and any takeaways or something you learned from that producer?
Break is definitely one of them. I wouldn't say I take away too much from him, aside from it's kind of funky and kind of more kind of soulful R&B kind of chord progression. Sometimes that's something I try to take with me, but that's also because I just really like listening to that type of music. So that's what I really like about his stuff. Kind of same thing goes for Zero T, I guess. His kind of progressions and stuff and just things he creates are so good and so beautiful. So that's also a thing. And then I would say the Alex Perez is just also kind of a huge inspiration just for making it's a lot of, it's kind of the usual suspects, I guess, for me. But that's why they are as good as they are. That's because they inspire a lot of people.
That's why they're the usual suspects, because everybody mentions them. No, brilliant. Alex Perez is definitely, because I have a lot more like liquid producers on this show, and that's the name that comes up quite often because both liquid and more deep tech producers, like everybody loves Alex.
Yeah, he just can't really do anything wrong in my eyes. It's always good.
And last question from Nathan, and we're going to leave it at that afterwards. This is probably going to be our hard one, but what's the favorite track you ever made?
Yeah, it is a hard one. The thing is, I would say that my favorite track isn't out yet because it's on the album.
That's the best answer.
Yeah, good promo.
Marketing.
but I do, and the thing is that this is probably something that's going to change over time. You know, my opinion on my best track, like right now, it will be this, but sometime it will be something different. And right now, as in tracks that I have released, it's probably Bold Courage with Dusky, just because that was like one of the tunes that just really was very refreshing because it was something different from what I'd done before. And I'm still really into that vibe. And you know, while writing this album right now and finishing it, that's kind of the vibe I've been in for the whole duration of that, you know, something really refreshing, just trying something different and really having a lot of fun again, making music. So that's why, you know, as in released tunes, Bold Courage, but unreleased tunes, one on the album, which, you know, it's kind of
we'll have to chat again once that album comes out. And,
but
brilliant. I was telling you earlier, like Bold Courage is definitely one of my favorite of yours. So I think that's a great place to leave this chat at. Really enjoyed this one, man. Thanks a lot for your time. Before we shut off, maybe let people know where they can check you out, any events you have upcoming, all that good stuff.
Well, I mean, the biggest one is definitely in Printworks in London. So for all the people in UK or around London, Printworks is going to be the one. It's 19th of March. But I'm also playing in Paris in January, on the 8th of January, for the Get in Step with AMC and Synergy and graphics and other guys. It's going to be very cool. I think those are probably the main shows the bigger shows I'm playing this year so far. And also Hospitality at the Beach in June in Albania. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Fingers crossed everything goes ahead as planned. And I think you guys have an event as well in like February that you're putting
if everything goes well, and you know, can't say we're too hopeful, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, on the 25th of February, we'll have an event with a very, very cool lineup in our usual venue. It's going to be fun. So.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks a lot for your time, man. And
my pleasure.
All the best with your future projects.
Thank you very much. You too, man. Cheers.